So hello, everyone. I am here with Dariella Gonitzke, and I invited her back on the Cooking from Scratch podcast today to talk about portion size and portion control. So as a chef, it's not something I am always thinking about, but as a health conscious and a wellness chef, it is something that I kind of been thinking about and trying to tell my clients and people in my membership how to manage portion control, how to know you're getting enough protein without necessarily weighing, or maybe weighing is something you want to do. So I invited her on. She's a functional practitioner, right? Nutritionist.
Yes.
And she's going to, awesome. She's going to help us figure out how we can go about thinking about portion size and portion control in a way that works for us with our style and how we eat and where our head is at. So that being said, I want to start actually with protein. So I got into the healthy cooking after 40 from a protein perspective. I've always been a wellness chef, but it really came from adding more protein to my diet. And I started to wanted to add more protein. I wanted to know how I was doing it without having to weigh and measure it. So I started doing this kind of plate method. I just kind of started doubling the pile of animal-based protein on my plate and taking away more of the simple carbs. That's how I did it. And that's how I tell people, but I'm not sure if that's really a legitimate way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's one way to do it. That's actually not a bad way to do it at all. Because most women need more protein, especially as we get into midlife. We're losing muscle faster. We're not building it as quickly as we used to. So we could all benefit from extra protein.
Right.
But there's definitely different ways women can go about it. Right. Plate method is great. Like
that's like a visual, very much a visual.
It's a very visual thing. Yeah. So like using a standard dinner plate, picturing like a quarter of that plate being your protein.
Okay.
Right. So if you have like a little, 2-ounce piece of chicken, that's not going to fill up a quarter of that plate.
Right.
So that would probably be more like 4 ounces if you really did that quarter. And then a quarter of it being a starch, and then half that plate being vegetables. That's kind of the plate method, so to speak.
It doesn't matter which type of vegetables. I mean, we can get deeper into that too, right? Like leafy greens versus like carrots or.
No, that's where I just say variety, because as long as they're what we call non-starchy vegetables, like they're not peas, corn, potatoes, yams. If they're the non-starchy, like I don't care if it's broccoli, carrots, cooked greens, whatever. A salad, like as long as there's just a non-starchy vegetable, you wanted them that half. And then the starchy vegetables kind of count as a starch. So they'll go in that quarter section.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yay. So
yeah, so doubling your protein probably wasn't a bad thing because you were just using the plate method. You didn't really.
Right. Because I think I measured it at first and then I just kind of eyeballed it and then went, oh, well, it's about double, and we'll put it over here on this part, and I'll take off a little bit of this, and there we go. I know I have more protein without getting a scale out or having to. I don't like to think that hard when I'm eating. I like to enjoy eating.
Yeah. So what helps my clients sometimes initially to get them on track, I do have them weigh or measure, but it's short-lived, right? It's like for 2 or 3 days, I have them, okay, this is what half a cup looks like, or this is what 4 ounces looks like. So they have an idea, and then we start using more of that plate method to keep it going, right? Because it is important to know like the difference between 3 versus 4 ounces of a protein, or half a cup versus a cup of rice. Like that's a big difference when it hits the bloodstream. So some women, they have a harder time visualizing that. So that's where measuring can be used appropriately, but it's not it doesn't have to be ongoing, right?
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you want it to be, unless you're that exacting and that is fun for you, then go for it.
Yes. I have some clients that love weighing, measuring, tracking their macros. They do it religiously every day. I always say, as long as it's not affecting your mental health in a negative way, you're not becoming obsessive about it, it's not becoming disordered in any way. Like if some people can just handle that, they just have almost like that engineer brain where they just like the numbers and they're black and white about it. Other people get very restrictive with it. They won't go to a social gathering because it doesn't fit their macros. And I'm like, uh-oh, now we have a problem, right? Yeah. Now it's a problem. So yeah, I'd usually do it short term, track to, weigh and measure to get yourself back on track, and then kind of let it go and just use your plate method as much as possible.
That's awesome. And would you call that like weigh and measure and then just kind of let it go? Does that get into like intuitive eating, or is that something like kind of something totally different?
Yeah, I think the foundational piece of it is definitely intuitive eating. So let me explain intuitive eating first. People are probably like, what is she talking about?
Yeah, no, I know.
Intuitive eating is really the concept of listening to your body to tell you what you want to eat, how much you want to eat, and when to stop. So if you watch a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old eat, they're very intuitive, right? They know when they're hungry, they know when they're full, they push their plate away, don't want it. But we kind of lose that sometimes as we become adults, whether it's diet culture or well-meaning parents who are telling you to clean your plate or whatever it is.
Right.
So we lose that ability to really listen to our bodies. And so I do teach my clients to go back to that as much as possible. If their digestion's pretty normal, they don't have any like disordered eating issues going on, most people can tune back into that. Obviously, if you have major digestive issues, you're either not hungry or you're, not feeling well, so you're not going to eat as much. But let's just say a normal situation, most people, if they eat slow enough and they're in the moment and they're mindful, they can tune back into those hunger fullness cues.
Right.
So you can't be distracted. You can't be sitting there, scrolling on your phone while you're eating lunch and then expect to be an intuitive eater. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
But if we can tap back into that, that's where you don't need to weigh and measure things as much because your body's telling you how much is enough. Right. So even if I make the most perfect meal plan for someone and they're just like, Dariella, it's too much food, I can't eat all that, I always say, listen to your body, pull back, make some adjustments. It's fine.
Yeah, that's something I've been noticing too is for a long time, protein in the morning, it was fine. And I would eat lots of protein, like actual protein and not just powders. But recently I've been like, God, I'm really just not hungry. And I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do? So I've kind of been experimenting, I'm like, there'll be mornings where I don't eat till later and I'm actually fine. And there will be mornings when I kind of make myself and then I'm like, oh, I'm glad I did. Like I actually was hungry. I just wasn't feeling it. So but it can really change. Like we're not always the same, and it can be difficult in a way then to manage what we're doing because sometimes we're hungry in the morning. Just for an example, sometimes we're hungry in the morning, sometimes we're not. Sometimes it's really hard to want to eat that high protein thing.
Yes, and that's where I do love the concept of intuitive eating for women, especially cycling women, because week to week we could have a completely different appetite. Right. The week like during or right when your period ends, you're not that hungry.
Yeah.
So that's a good time for women to try maybe a little intermittent fasting. If they don't want breakfast in the morning, they could go an extra couple hours. But then you switch to like the week right before your period where you can eat 2 servings of dinner and dessert and you're starving. And so that's where I tell women like, we kind of have to listen to our bodies and see what our body needs.
Yeah.
Depending on where we're at. Yeah.
Right. So this caveat, I did this episode a while back about the dangers of hyperpalatable foods, right?
Yeah.
And that's what kind of comes to mind here is that I feel like there's that danger. I mean, if you're aware of it, maybe not, but like if you're like, ooh, I feel like enter hyperpalatable food here, and then you're like, well, it's intuitive. I feel like it. So, but it's really that your brain has been kind of taken over and trained, and your hunger cues are off for affected in some way, right? So it's something like it's a caveat like intuitive eating with real food. Not intuitive eating with Doritos.
That is such a good point. It is much easier to self-regulate whole food, real food.
Yeah.
Where Doritos and all those processed foods, they're not meant to self-regulate. They were literally made by food scientists to be hyper palatable so that you eat more of them, so that they dissolve in your mouth in a certain way. So they have certain flavors, enhancers that make your brain go, woo!
Yeah.
Like they're not real food. So that's why like Pringles, remember you can't eat just one. Like,
Right. That's true.
Like literally all those foods are like that because
Yeah.
they're not meant to be regulated very well. So yes, keep that in mind too. Like if you are, let's say you're PMSing, you're about to start your period and you're craving, sweets or salty or something, that's where I might have potato chips, but I still have just plain potato chips, like potato, salt, oil, versus like a Doritos or something that's that hyper palatable food.
Right. And filled with all the chemicals too.
And filled with all those, additives to enhance the flavor, make you want to eat more.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I actually did you have anything you wanted to say about that? I had another question that's kind of related.
I was just going to say, going back to hormones, like we don't just eat, there's other hormones too, like cortisol, like our stress hormone, definitely plays a role in our food choices too. So like you were saying, like when we're stressed or when we're, about to get our periods, I think there's that mindfulness piece of asking yourself, am I hungry for this food or am I just wanting to use it to cope right now?
Right. Or am I bored? That's my
Oh,
thing.
that's a big one.
Right. I work from home. I'm here and I'm like, I'm taking a break from working. I've taken my walk and I'm like, don't want to quite go back to work.
Yes.
It's really easy to reach for just anything.
A little snack.
Yeah. By the end of the day, it's like, wow, that was a lot of little snacks.
Yes. And that's sometimes where I need people to track for a couple of days because the mindless eating has gotten out of control. And I'm like, let's write it all down.
Right.
And then they realize like, oh my gosh, I'm grazing all day long.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. That's
so there are benefits to tracking, here and there.
Yeah. But just like you said, just so that it doesn't affect your mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't let it go too far.
Yeah. That's an important point. So can you talk about, this is related to me, calories in and calories out. Like there's so much information I see when I'm scrolling all the things from YouTube to Instagram to everywhere that are talking about like, I use this diet to lose 40 pounds. And when you watch them, it's almost always a really different method. Like I came across this one woman recently and she was like, I watched it for a while and she doesn't cook with fat anymore. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. That's one way to do it, I guess. And I'm just watching it going, oh, shoot. Like, I don't know what that was all about, but I just realized that there's so much information out there that people are still really afraid of calories. Like, we need to take in less calories than we expend, right? That is still the rule.
Yes. So it's still the rule in general. Yes. Like if a woman or anybody wants to lose weight, you still have to be in some sort of a deficit for that to happen. Okay. What changes usually by menopause is that women become a lot more insulin resistant, or we could think of it as they're a lot more sensitive to carbohydrates. They don't process them the way they used to. You can't just eat a bunch of carbs and burn it like you're 25, right? Right. My daughter was at a party this weekend and we had donuts and, these girls are 12 and they're eating 3 donuts. And I'm like, I missed that metabolism.
Yeah.
But when we hit a certain age, it just doesn't happen like that anymore. So it doesn't become just a calorie in versus calorie out, because you could be counting macros and eating the donuts and the gummy bears and all this to count as your carbs. But if that's spiking glucose, spiking insulin, you're still going to have weight gain, regardless of the calories. So then it becomes a double issue where you're tracking calories to be in a slight deficit. And I'll talk about what slight means. But you also have to be mindful of that protein carb combination so that you're not spiking your glucose. Right. It's like you can't get away with just carbs by themselves anymore, because it's probably going to spike your glucose, spike your insulin, cause weight gain. Or a super carb heavy meal because you didn't have carbs earlier in the day. So now you're loading up at dinner. That's still going to lead to weight gain. So
even if you're in a calorie deficit.
Even if you're in a calorie deficit. So for women in midlife, it's just very different, where you have to be aware of all these different things now. Right. It's not enough to just eat 1,000 calories of whatever and lose weight. It doesn't work like that, because there's a hormonal component to it now.
Man, I should have been more grateful back in the day when I could do that.
I know. I mean, in college, I lived off like gummy bears and red vines, and I'm like,
Right?
I weighed, 118 pounds. And now
I
I'm like,
know. And when you wanted to lose weight, you just like ate a little less of whatever.
yeah,
It didn't really matter.
went on a walk.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
too
know.
much funny. Okay.
So yes. But going back to the deficit and the carbs and all that, what's like the easiest way to know your calorie amount for people, if they're wearing like a Fitbit, I purposely wore mine today to show people. If you have a Fitbit, an Apple Watch, anything that tracks your energy expenditure for the day,
right.
then you know on average how much you burn every day.
Okay.
So like I on average burn 2,000 calories a day.
Right.
So I only give myself usually about a 300 calorie deficit if I want to lose weight.
Got it.
If I really wanted to be aggressive, maybe 500. But usually for me to feel comfortable, not be hungry, not feel like I'm on a diet, like 300 is a good place for me to just sustain that. And I know it'll come off slowly, but it'll come off.
Right.
But the other important piece, if women can get like some kind of body composition testing done,
Okay.
like in-body, DEXA scan, any kind of those, there's several of them out there now, but those machines not only spit out your body fat and your muscle, but they give you your basal metabolic rate. This is how many calories you burn at rest, meaning doing nothing all day.
Right. Okay.
So which is like your minimum. We have to think of it that way. So my minimum is 1,200. If I were to eat at or below 1,200, my metabolism is going to slow down.
Yeah.
Because that's what I barely need to just function for the day. So I know, based on what I'm doing, I'm burning 2,000. My minimum's 1,200. So if I'm trying to create something to lose weight, I can't go below 1,200 and I can't go above 2,000, obviously.
Right.
So usually around let's say for me, 1,600 is a good number, 17, 1,600, somewhere around there.
Okay. And is that the slight deficit you're talking about? Is that
yes.
By that?
So slight deficit could be between 200 to 400 calorie deficit. But when you go into MyFitnessPal or one of those apps and you put, I want to lose a pound a week, they take almost every single woman down to 1,200 calories. And most women, metabolism. Yeah, I mean, I'm only 5'1", so most women who are much taller than me, their basal metabolic rate is 1,400, 1,500.
Right.
And then your MyFitnessPal is telling you go down to 1,200. You're slowing down your metabolism now. You're going to screw it up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why it's more important to use your own numbers,
right,
versus whatever an app tells you to do.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And the kids getting that basal metabolic, that's something that's ordered through somebody like you, like a
there's a lot of gyms that have that machine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Doctors' offices have that machine. If you go to InBody's website, they have a location finder.
Oh, interesting.
And then you put in your zip code and you can find a machine near you. And, they'll charge you $20, $30 or something to scan, but you only need to do it every few months. It's not something you're going to do that often.
Right. So it seems like a really simple thing to be able to do just to get a base idea and still enjoy your food, right? My job here is to make sure people are enjoying eating, enjoying the flavor, coming 100%. Back to it, all of it. So I'm very cautious about all these things, but I'm like, oh, hey, okay, that would make some sense. And then you just have an idea.
Yeah.
And you go from there.
Yes. To me, the more important thing, because I work with a lot of midlife women, the most important thing is, are you building muscle? Are you strength training, and are you eating enough to build or at least maintain your muscle?
Right.
So when I have them do those in-body scans every 3 months, that's actually what I'm looking for. If their basal metabolic rate went down, I'm like, you're under eating. This isn't working. Right. You don't want a slower metabolism. You want a faster metabolism. You want to be able to build muscle. So I just have a different approach to it. So I have to be very careful with their calorie deficit, because if it's too much, they're going to lose muscle.
Right. And more muscle means you have a higher metabolism. That's what it is, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why we're building muscle, partly.
Yes. Okay. That's why you see all those, if you're on TikTok, Instagram, everybody's talking about strength training and muscle building for women in their 40s, 50s, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important. Okay. So I'm not sure if I have any more questions. I really wanted to have you on air to talk about portion size.
I know. Do you want to talk about
nutrition.
carb portion sizes or fat portion
Sure.
sizes?
Yeah. Let's maybe do it. I'm a really visual person with my plate. Like,
Yes.
and I've always been very general with the fat, and especially as a chef, fat brings so much flavor
So much flavor.
that I'm like, it's okay. It's just a swirl, you know, and people are like,
It's just a drizzle. Yeah.
right.
To be honest, I'm pretty liberal with the fat myself and
right.
with my clients because it does give that satiety.
Yeah.
I did a whole workshop a couple weeks ago on
nice.
our appetite hormones, and proteins and fats are what really set off like the leptin, what we call CCK, all these hormones that make us feel full and make us stop eating. So I'm not too restrictive on fats as long as they're healthy fats and good sources, you know.
Right.
But I don't think anyone became obese eating too much olive oil.
Right.
You know?
Right. Definitely.
Like that's usually not the problem.
Right.
But going back to carbs, because that's another big one where women either cut them out completely, they're terrified of carbs, you know, they want to lose weight so desperately that they go like almost carnivore.
Yeah.
And then there's implications for that too, right? So we do need carbohydrates, even if it's just a small amount at each meal.
Right.
But for most women, like half a cup or like your fist is a good amount to at least start with.
Okay.
Right. Or like
and
I said,
this is any type of carb?
Pretty much. I mean, obviously whole food carbs would be best, right? Like a potato versus potato chips.
Right. Okay.
But if we're just talking carbs in general, then I'd say, yeah, half cup, about a fist is usually like a good place to start.
Right.
And then adjust depending on what her body does and her energy levels and everything else. But
okay. Because I've been really getting into the smart carbs lately, like the complex carbs, right? Is that what that means? And so we've been eating a lot more sweet potatoes, but from what I'm understanding, regular potatoes are okay too.
Regular potatoes are great. Especially like if you can eat it with the skin, that's where the fiber's at. But regular potatoes have vitamin C, they have a ton of potassium, they have a ton of minerals.
I've been lumping them in with rice, which like they're not really the same necessarily in terms of.
No.
Yeah.
Potatoes are
like
way more nutrient dense than rice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If I had to pick one, I'd say eat more potatoes over rice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think women, like if someone wanted to lose weight, I might, let's say if we're talking about a meal,
right,
and they were tracking, they wanted to know the grams, I'd say keep the carb servings to maybe, let's say 15 to 20, maybe no more than 30 grams per meal.
Right.
But then their protein has to be above and beyond that. So the protein should either match, like if you have 30 carbs, try to shoot for 30 protein.
Right.
But even if I only have 15 carbs, I still have about 30 protein at every meal. So everyone's different though. Like I have a history of PCOS, I have insulin resistance, I'm in perimenopause. So I have to be a bit more careful with my carbs. So kind of like you said, the smart carbs, I think of like what high fiber carb can I eat?
So so when people hear smart carb, they can think of more fiber, high fiber.
Yeah.
I just did this cooking video on my YouTube channel, and I used like a Japanese white sweet potato. They're so good. Like they're a little bit sweet, but not too sweet.
Yeah.
And I just do them, and like they're kind of a potato chips shape. I'll just cut them like lengthwise and then across, so they end up kind of like half moons.
Yes.
And I put like a spice blend, olive oil, salt on them. They're so good. And if you slice them thin enough, they become like a potato chip.
Yeah.
At a high temperature. And we've just been eating those so much.
Yes.
They're so good. And I'm thinking, these are they're a smart carb, but they taste delicious too. So.
Yeah. Yeah. So like when I have someone track, a lot of times all I have them track is the protein and the fiber. I'm like, you can set your calories to 4,000 and don't worry about it. But are you getting enough protein in each meal? Are you getting enough fiber? And then they'll intuitively start making the right carb choices because they're trying to hit that fiber goal.
That makes sense.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, you can get it from nuts and seeds and whatnot, but usually for getting the fruits and the veggies and the beans and the legumes, you're going to hit your fiber goal versus eating a bunch of the refined stuff. So,
that fiber is really good for satiety. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I've noticed. I used to eat a lot more protein and less of other things. And then I was like, why am I still hungry? Or feel hungry.
Yes.
Like I will have a pile of meat and I'm like, that was delicious, but there's some still little like, what is going on?
And that goes back to your microbiome.
Yeah.
Right? Your microbiome ferments those fiber-rich foods, and then they produce something called short-chain fatty acids, which control your appetite and control inflammation and all kinds of different things in your gut. So yeah, it's the protein, it's the fat, and it's the fiber. So PFF.
Nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right on. Well, thank you so much. It's short but sweet, but I really appreciate the information and I don't know, the validation and just keep doing that plate method.
Yeah, I think, like I said, women can take multiple approaches, right? If the visual plate method works, stick with that. If they want to weigh and measure for a little while, that works too. If they just want to listen to their body and, sit and be mindful before their meals. And it's amazing what happens when you actually listen to your body. You'll be like, oh, I'm actually full. I'm done. Like,
right. Totally. How can people get in touch with you if they want to go further
so you can
with you?
find me on Instagram
Okay.
at nutrition for perimenopause.
Okay. Cool.
And my website, they can always schedule a free call with me anytime as well, which is sarahvitanutrition.com.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the info.
Yes. Thank you for having me again.